Welcome to Shift. I liked how Anne called it the little Norway. That was kind of cute.
That was very cute.
So our guest today is Executive Director of Norway House, Christina Carleton. Welcome, Christina.
Thank you. Thank you so much for having me.
So Norway House has been in the news a little bit. Two things. One is the visit of the Queen last fall, Queen Solveig. And the other is that the Norway House actually went with the governor to the Norex exchange with the National Guard in Norway between Minnesota and the National Guard. Mm-hmm. So that's kind of fun.
Yeah.
Christina has a very interesting background, I will say. She is the daughter of a diplomat, and I don't think any of us are the daughters or sons of diplomats. And so tell us a little bit about your growing up, where you grew up.
Yes, thank you. So I was born in Oslo, Norway. I'm still a Norwegian citizen. And my father was Norwegian, my mother is Swedish. Full disclosure, I'm half Swedish. But we moved around. Every 4 years we moved to a new country. So I grew up in Paris, Rome, Washington, D.C., Rio de Janeiro in Brazil, and a few other places, and then ended up here in Minneapolis because this is where my father had his last posting as a Norwegian diplomat for the Norwegian Foreign Service. So he was in the Foreign Service for 50 years, and I think he loved Minneapolis the most. So, so we were very happy to be here, and then I went to the University of Minnesota and stayed 20 years later, still here.
But still a Norwegian citizen, which Christina told me she's hoping to start changing. So
Yeah.
I thought that was very interesting. Well, I have heard about Norway House for a bit because I have friends who are very involved in Norway House and some people in our congregation as well. And tell us a little bit about the beginnings of it.
Yes, so we were formed as a nonprofit back in 2004. There was a need in the community for a gathering place for all things Norwegian. And we looked to the Swedish Institute, we looked to the Danish Institute and said, where's the Norway House? And so we started forming committees and doing studies if this would even be something people would go to. And now we have behind me a photo of what it looks like today. But we started with the blue brick building that's on the right there, the ELCA building. Back in 2014, we purchased that. So we were out there looking for a space for a good 10 years, forming some programs, and then finally landed there, which we're also, you don't see this in the background, but there's the Norwegian Lutheran Memorial Church, Minnekirken, is right there, and they've been there for 100 years. So this is where Norwegians first landed when they came to Minnesota, to the Twin Cities, and we just felt like it was coming home. So we've been there now, and now you see the expansion. We just opened in January. We still have a few things that we have to do, but it is fully open now. So we're very excited about it, and we're calling it the Little Norway Block with the Norwegian Lutheran Memorial Church as well, which still has services every Sunday in Norwegian. Mm-hmm.
Wow.
Yeah.
When you said you're looking for a gathering spot for Norwegians, I couldn't help but think of, what about the Sons of Norway?
Yes, so the Sons of Norway is located on Lake Street there in Uptown. And they used to have a gathering spot up on that third or fourth floor. This is before my time, before I came here. But they closed that down. And I think after that there was everybody dispersed, organizations went to different places around the Twin Cities, and they just felt like we still needed a place to all things together. So now we have that. We have a beautiful 250 person seating capacity in our event space, in our aula, we call it, and of course our gallery and other meeting rooms as well. So and it's not just for Norwegians. We had companies that have had their events there, and weddings, and all sorts of things. So we're excited for the future.
Why do you think that people come or want to be associated with, their heritage? Why do you think that's a draw for people?
I think people are looking for their identity, as who you are and where you came from and where your ancestors came from. I think we're all looking for that belonging and understanding who we are. We will have actually in the lower level a beautiful library, archive, bibliothèque, where you can do studies and work with a researcher to do genealogy work, if people are interested in that. And so I think kind of that full circle of programs and speakers that we have and exhibits kind of all tied together in the end of understanding, and also for the new generation, the next generation that is also interested in understanding where we all came from.
It's interesting. I have done some of that and connected with at least my Norwegian side. And my kids are also really interested in it in their 20s. I mean, they want to know more about it. So I think that you're right on as we all look for, who are we?
Yeah.
And, sometimes we ask the question, why are we here? Mm-hmm. And I find comfort in knowing that there were people that were here before me, and that some of our ancestors, I don't know about you, but how many of you had ancestors who immigrated here from Europe?
Yeah.
Yeah, exactly, most of us. So we know that they toiled, right? They had it a lot harder than we did. They lived in sod houses. They settled in places where the train depots were. Mm-hmm. And so I like learning about that, and I like meeting other people who have that. I met a woman who was from the town where my relatives grew up, and I just was like, oh, that is really cool. Not that she knew anybody, yeah. But I thought that was really neat.
Yeah.
And so I think that part of your organization where people look, how are you doing classes for that? Are people asking for help when they want to find their relatives?
Yeah, we get that all the time. So, we've partnered with Bygdelagenes Fellesråd, which is an organization with 3,000 members, to have those expertise with us to be able to answer all those types of questions. So that's been a wonderful kind of addition to our programming. And people come. They come when we have those programs, offering online as well, because people are curious. They're curious about their ancestors. I've traveled with members to Norway, and they go to see their hometown, and it's tearful. Seeing where their great grandparents came from, or and where they left, and where they came, and how they settled, and the journey that they took. It's remarkable.
They did something really neat, I think, when they dug ground for their new space. And that was, they asked people to bring some dirt from where they were from. And so, I imagined that I would be bringing some from North Dakota. Somebody else would be bringing some from Minnesota, Iowa, wherever. That was all part of the foundation.
Yeah.
And maybe that's what we're looking for, is our foundation.
Exactly. Yeah, we had a soil dedication. Kind of a couple different events, beam signing that people could sign that you can see when you're in the event center. But the soil dedication was quite touching. People had brought little pieces of dirt from all over. They even sent it to us, and we had a blessing, and and now it's laid on in the ground somewhere underneath the event center. Yeah.
They have an interesting location. I think it's on Lake Street. And it is, besides it being the block of Little Norway, it also has other cultures.
Oh, yeah, we're in an immigrant community, so we partner a lot with our immediate neighbors. In fact, one of our upcoming exhibits this fall is with the American Indian Center down the street. So they're undergoing a huge renovation right now as well. And so we will be hosting their exhibit in our gallery. So partnerships like that have been key, and especially for our Gingerbread Wonderland exhibit, we've definitely partnered with, Franklin Library, for example, and so forth. So getting the community into Norway House has been a huge part of our mission.
And what else does Norway House do?
Well, we have, once you enter, maybe I have some images.
Yeah, show us a little.
Well, this is from the start. But if you enter Norway House right now, there's a gallery. I can't look and do this at the same time. We have a cafe and a gift shop. If you're familiar with Ingebretsen, which is on Lake Street, so they have a gift shop at Norway House. And of course, the beautiful event space in the new building, in the new addition. Otherwise, meeting rooms. There'll be knitters on Tuesday that are sitting around with book clubs, all sorts of different types of things that are going on all the time. So these are just a couple of examples of our different programs. We have the Peace Initiative that's twice a year, which will be hosted now at Norway House in May. And that's all about engaging with any peace-related issues that are going on around the world. So this upcoming one will be on AI, so we're very excited about that. And I don't know who the speakers are, I don't think we've landed on that, but, and this is our BARN program. This is our business accelerator. So we are bringing companies from Norway that want to get into the US market. So we're working with 15 different companies, and this is what we launched when we went with the governor to Norway, and we had about 85 business leaders that showed up for that luncheon in Oslo, and it was just a huge success. We've signed on 5 or 6 companies since that trip that are wanting to get into the U.S. market. So it's all from sustainable companies to med tech to food, jewelry, sølvsmia. So it's just been a really exciting program that is really taken off. And then our Edvard Grieg Society is our music program with concerts. And this is our exhibits that we have. So the Finn Eirik is our sculptor from Norway. That's the giant pine cone that you see when you come. And there's a sister pine cone outside of Bergen. The same size, same 16.5 feet tall. It's gorgeous. And then a couple of his works as well that you can see if you come to the gallery right now. And then the next exhibit is New Nordic Cuisine. I spoke about the Two Rivers Gallery. And then, of course, our signature event, which brings in a lot of people, Gingerbread Wonderland. And that's been a huge success. It's every year, community builds gingerbread structures out of anything that they want, from 2 years old to amateurs and professionals that bring them down. And we have a train going, and people love it.
Has anyone ever been to the gingerbread?
Yeah.
Yeah, it sounds like it's pretty spectacular,
Yeah,
right?
It's our 9th
Worth
year.
a trip.
Yeah, it's worth a trip.
Yeah.
So this is our 9th year doing that. Yeah, so next year will be our 10th. There's just a couple of photos from our groundbreaking, our soil dedication, just a couple of and then of course Her Majesty, Queen Sonja, was there for a ribbon cutting back in October, and that was just spectacular. We had 1,200 people standing outside in the parking lot awaiting Her Majesty to arrive. And she did the ribbon cutting along with our mayor and Senator Klobuchar, and spoke about this wonderful, and this is what she said to the Norwegian news. This is like 17. Mai many, many times over again. She said it in Norwegian. And 17. Mai is our Constitution Day that we celebrate every year.
Tell us about what she's wearing.
Oh, this is
What
her-
are you wearing?
Well, she has
Queen?
several bunads, but this is the one she chose. It's the same one actually as the ambassador chose. But that is a Norwegian national bunad. And I have one on as well. That's the Oslo one. And from different regions all over Norway. So wherever you come from is the one that you're supposed to wear.
Okay. And then what's around her head?
Oh, that's just part of the bunad style that she has. So
Yeah, interesting.
I have a hat that I'm supposed to wear, and there's different kinds.
You
so-
do, and people enjoy dressing up like that as well.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
So you do that for confirmations, weddings, Satnamai is a big one, those types of things.
Yeah. And where is hers from?
I think that one,
I don't know. All over
I think
Norway?
it's Telemark.
Okay, Telemark.
I think so.
All right. Yeah, there you see little kids that came that were dressed up like that.
Yeah, and it's all hand embroidered. So the one that I have is from Oslo, and it was my grandmother's. So they're very forgiving. You can sew them in, you can sew them out. So they're 100% wool, very hot. So then yeah, you can give them to the next generation and so forth. So that one's been around for a long time. So special for me to wear.
Well, I want to hear from all of you. It sounds like people have relatives that immigrated, and I'm wondering if you have questions or if you want to say where your relatives immigrated from.
Oh, put me on the spot. It was near Lillehammer.
Oh, the Birkebeiner is going on there now.
Actually, Eidskog.
Eidskog?
Yeah.
Linda's from Germany, but that's good too. Kathy, where are the Thunheims from?
The Thunheims, yes. Let's try. All four of Bob's great-grandparents came from Norway, and we've had the privilege of going with Christina over there. So Hamar is where one, right by Lillehammer. So we might be related, let's hope. Let's see, where up north? You were just up, okay, I have to wake up, you know.
No.
Anyway.
He has told me about, yeah.
It's by Trondheim. It's north of there. It starts with an S. I got to wake up. I haven't had
no.
enough coffee. Anyway, the other one, the Thunheim farm is south of Bergen, and one more in Numedal Valley, little town, west of Kongsberg. I just don't have all four names, but here's what I will tell you. I have Swedish and Danish and a lot of German, but we got married and went to Norway on our honeymoon, and we showed up, and I think we had 5 parties. They all, like 75 and 80 people showed up at each place in their bunads, the men wear their bunads, with such love and generosity to me. It really, really has always touched my heart, how much they loved me immediately, because I was marrying a Norwegian American from Newfoundland, Minnesota, where the dirt is now
I know.
under
Yes.
Norway House.
Yeah. How about you, Mr. Dahl?
My dad's relatives, well, his mother and father were from Trondheim at the top of the fjord there, and also from Verdal up in the mountains. And we've been there a couple of times. I've been there twice. And the farm's still there, and we've been there since the 1600s.
That's great.
So it's really a wonderful place. I love Norway. And we've been all the way up to, well, one time we had 3 weeks, so we went north to Boda, and then we went over to the Lofoten Islands, stayed there for a couple of days, and then all the way down Sweden, and then back to Oslo
Great.
with my brother and sister. So, yeah, very nice.
Very good. Any takers over here? I know I have a Swedish one.
Yeah. Yeah, I'm Swedish. My grandma and grandpa came from Sweden, one from Malmo and one from north of Stockholm in a little town up there. And we have been back to see where the house is still, where my grandfather was born, is still in the family. Oh, it was amazing. It was just amazing in Vibberbo. So,
My mother lives just north of Malmö, not too far.
I would have to go get my mother, who would probably know exactly where her family was from. I'm Orlu Jensen's daughter. So she would probably know because she's very proud of being 100%.
That's Orlu, 100% Norwegian. Miss Weil, thank you for coming. Mr. Rude.
If you were to examine my pedigree, I would have papers. I did a family history, and I went back to the mid-1700s. And our family immigrated, or they were located about 120 miles northwest of Oslo. And when they immigrated to the States, they settled in Rock County, Wisconsin. And it just so happens that my great-grandfather was the first organist at the church in Somerville, Wisconsin.
Wow, that is a neat heritage.
My grandparents, my great-grandparents immigrated from Varmland, Serbia.
My family was not from Norway, but I did have an opportunity to spend some time there years ago on business, so I got to see Norway, much like Minnesota, the country was. I was wondering, though, Ole and Lena jokes are really popular here in Minnesota. And I'm wondering, did they originate in Norway or did they originate here in Minnesota?
That's a great question. You know,
It's an awesome question, Dick. Yeah.
I feel like I'm going to maybe say something wrong, but I think it's from here. I almost want to say, because I didn't really hear that much before I came here about Ole and Lena jokes, but I could be wrong. So,
my son has done a great deal of genealogy work, and with 23andMe, and has submitted his. Anyhow, he is connected. I have a great grandmother that Olena Olingson, who came over on a whaling ship, and I don't know where I know the name of the ship, but I don't know where she came from in Norway. But he has connected with a scientist in Norway, a very distant relative, like 13 generations or something. And anyhow, he's doing research on wheat and barley and rye. And he not only grows the different varieties, he's also putting them into recipes and creating breads and testing them to see how they taste in the different. Anyhow, it's very interesting. He ran into a very interesting person on Facebook that we're related to. Anyhow, genealogy would be great fun, and my son has recently retired, and this is giving him a lot to do.
great. That's wonderful.
My father's family, he is would be third generation or third generation. My father's family comes from Norway, and my history with that, he's done some genealogy, but it's Norwegian. I never spoke it. He volunteered for the Norwegians in exile and served with the Norwegian Royal Air Force and eventually the British Royal Air Force, and brought home a war bride from England. And she did not encourage any of her kids to speak Norwegian because for the first 6 months, she lived in a house with my grandparents where they spoke only Norwegian to my dad and sort of excluded him. My kids and my nieces and nephews all went to Norwegian camp, and my dad was very active with Sons of Norway and the Norske Torskensklubben in St. Paul. But we have some history. I find genealogy with the name changing and the spelling I mean, we ended up simply Benson, and Bjornsson Suldal is somewhere in there, and Bigland Township in near Crookston, northern Minnesota, is where the family, where my parents, my grandparents, my great-grandparents are all buried there. And so anyway, interesting.
Oh, okay. Well, my grandmother is from Norway, and of course her whole family, and they are from around the Isle of Second, and my grandfather it was 100% Norwegian, and he lived to be 102. Chewing snus and having like 2 drinks a day, and that was, you know, all about the control. And he was from Lillehammer, so yeah, we grew up honoring that. And my grandmother would say every Christmas she would talk about how the Christmas trees in Norway had the candles on them, and how it was a wonder that the house didn't burn down with that. Yeah, so it was every single time, and my cousin says that her mother said the same thing, so I will probably end up saying something like that. I think it's interesting that that we all have that connection. And what do you think, Christine? Who are we if we have that heritage?
Who are we? Oh, that's a good question. As a Norwegians, is that what
Yeah.
you, yeah.
Yeah, who are the Norwegians?
Well, Norway House is all about connecting to contemporary, to Norway today. And more so, you know, about that than, you know, we want to honor our past and our heritage. So we are, you know, what does Norway stand for, you know, through peace and human rights and those types of things. So that is what we are emphasizing and wanting to bring to the twins, you know, the Twin Cities and Minnesota and the U.S. So that is kind of our mission, and we do that through arts, business, and culture. So that is kind of what our drive and we work for. So, yeah.
Cool.
All right.
What were the economics or whatever that brought so many people out of Norway over here?
Norway used to be very poor. Before we found oil in the late 60s. So Norwegians, they left, and the king didn't really stop them back then in the 1800s. He said, go find a better life, free land, go be entrepreneurial and yeah. So I mean that's why a lot of people left, at least Norway at that time.
I don't think I knew they were encouraged. That's interesting that your, you know, government would say that. Yeah. I mean, you almost had to feel like, well, yes, I think I better. Where are you from?
My mother's father came from Folldal or Dalholm, north of Lillehammer. I do have a question for you, and maybe I'm preempting a little bit, but we have so many Norwegians here. Can you talk a little bit about membership at the Norway House and how all these Norwegians can get more involved?
Yes, that's a great question. That is a great way to get involved, is through becoming a member. That is kind of our first step into discovering what Norway House is all about. Of course, joining our mailing list as well. But we have just a membership program from different levels, of course. And that is how you'll receive our mailing lists and our member frokos, for example. We have a free monthly breakfast that we do. It's smørgåsbord, that people can come and just listen about our exhibits and hear what's going on at Norway House. So it's just a great program. We have a great person working on that, Race Fisher, who's our membership coordinator, and just doing a wonderful job with that. So thank you. Thanks for mentioning that.
I have a granddaughter that works for a company in Oslo, Norway called Medistem.
Oh, yeah.
And
they're located here.
Yeah, she has traveled to Norway and, to Oslo, and she said it's such a beautiful country, and she loves the way they eat.
Yes.
They eat very healthy, and she feels so good when she gets home.
Yes, that is. Is she located here at Medistem?
Yes.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
What is? I know of some folks that work there, but we can talk about it later.
Oh, really? Okay.
Yeah, so it's one of the Norwegian companies that are located here in Minnesota.
Okay, good.
Interesting. What do they do?
It's I can't really quite explain it, but yeah, it's a medical device that, yeah, it's something that they insert into the arteries or the veins to help the flow of the blood.
Yep.
I don't really understand it, but.
Well, that's a
Close enough.
very good start. I never think of Norwegian companies having like a presence in Minnesota. I know that you talked about bringing some companies to Minnesota, and one of the things that was talked about is Norwegians don't like to brag. I don't know if that's true or not, but anyway, we think that's true.
Oh, it's very true.
Yeah, and
This
and
is-
it's a serious thing.
It's very hard to talk about yourself.
Yes, so we know that might be part of who we are. It's hard for us to
Yeah,
talk
it's
about
our
ourselves.
janteloven. It's just part of our culture. that
Or
we're all the same.
feelings. Feelings. What?
Yeah.
Does anyone have any? Okay. Well, I think that Christina did bring some membership information, and I would encourage you to join the mailing list if you're interested. I think it's norwayhouse.org.
That's correct.
And they do have a lot of things going on, and it's fun to just take a little trip
Yeah.
downtown.
We've got
and,
great coffee,
yep.
waffles, hot dogs.
Yeah, exactly. You could eat lunch at Ingebretsen's, and I think it is fun for us to have that connection that we talked about as well. Those things make us similar, and I think we can gather and all talk about ourselves sometime. Dick has a question. Yeah. Okay, Dick has.
So Brad Bakken in our church is the chair of the
building committee.
building committee. So he's raised almost $20 million
Yep.
for that beautiful facility. Bob Thunheim's the board chair. So we're there a lot. And we, in our retirement, we're going to be there even more. Please come and join us. I mean,
Yeah.
they have these great speakers and music. It's just really fun. And so there's always Trinity people there, is what I want to say. And Jerry and I go to Laxalaga, which is the women's organization. April 1st, they've actually recruited me. They lost their other speakers, so they pulled me in at the last second. So if you want to come to lunch at Norway House April 1st, I'm talking about Gustavus Women in Leadership, where Christy Mortz is a board member. Thank you. So anyway, reach out to Jerry and me, and we'd love to have you come anytime. It's just really a joy for Trinity.
And you can eat salmon and boiled potatoes and cucumber salad. And it's actually pretty good.
I just wanted to mention that there's a big article in the Tribune this morning, the Sunday Tribune this morning, a big article.
Oh, so there's an article about what?
About the Norway.
Oh, yes, yes. Yes, I did know that, yeah.
Yeah,
I was
neat.
interviewed for it. That's right.
God morgen.
Sorry?
God morgen.
Good morning.
I read 2 years ago that through DNA, if you can prove to be 51% Norwegian or more, you can have dual citizenship. Do you know if this is true?
So I happened to work at the Norwegian consulate for 9 years prior to this job, and unless they've changed the rules as of late, unfortunately, you have to have had. Well, it's complicated, but there may be ways to do it. Yeah, I would speak to the Norwegian consulate. They're the ones that have the most accurate, and they are actually a tenant at Norway House. So I would contact them for that, because rules change all the time. And
Just a little bit of trivia. Back in the 1700s in Norway, when my great-grandfather immigrated, the average size of the farm in Norway was 25 acres. And they made a living on that.
Oh, my goodness. No wonder my family wanted to buy land. Yeah, yeah. Yeah, it's great growing.
My relatives moved because he was second
Yep.
No,
So,
it's
so,
not.
so Ben was saying that the heritage was that only the first son was the inheritor, and good luck to the rest of the kids, right? But it was just 25 acres, so. But it was their life. Yeah, that's right. I don't think the daughters I think the daughters were working in the house, would be my guess.
Times have changed.
Yes, times have changed,
Yeah.
thankfully. And thank you for coming and sharing a little bit about yourselves. It was really
Yeah,
great.
thank you.
Thank
Thank you. Thank you.